Did you know there are literally hundreds of different jobs in arts and culture? Aside from performers, lighting and sound engineers and writers, there are a whole host of roles which make great cultural places and events possible. We are sharing with you contributions from some fascinating people in the sector who all have different experiences but all share the same common goal of playing their part in pushing arts and culture forward.
Hi, I'm Eddie Berg. I'm here in New York, in downtown Brooklyn, in fact, where I live and work. And I'm sharing a bit of my story with you today because hopefully some of it will resonate with you. I'm the founder and former chief executive of FACT, the Foundation for Art and Creative Technology in Liverpool. So I did the FACT Centre developments. I then went on to work and live in London for 15 years before moving to New York. In London, I did the BFI South Bank developments, worked for the British Film Institute for 10 years. I'm originally from Liverpool. My dad worked on Garston Docks, was a merchant seaman. My mum was a cleaner. We were not, by any stretch of the imagination, arts people. We were pretty poor as well, so we hardly consumed any culture in any kind of meaningful way, and except maybe to go to the cinema once every couple of weeks. When I was a teenager, I really got into music, not just listening to music, but I started reading about music, and that was a time when it was possible to use music as a gateway to a whole world of ideas and wider culture through people writing about music. And that's what I did. And I met, also along the way, I started hanging out with some really interesting people just by chance who I shared some ideas with. But I never thought I'd be able to work in the arts. I didn't think I was smart enough or would have the right background or connections. And I realised early on that I really had to create my own destiny. And from that, I'd be able to create my own look, make my own look. If I was going to work in the arts, I had to find a way to invent my own place in that world. So I wasn't going to fit into what existed. I did some terrible, really shitty jobs when I was young, and then one day, prompted by some friends, I applied for a job at the Everyman Theatre in Liverpool, and the job was box office assistant. Somehow, because I was woefully underqualified, somehow I got an interview, and even more bizarrely, I managed to secure the job. I still don't know how to this day, but that was my kind of big turning point. Because back then, the Everyman was a thriving hub for all sorts of creative people. And by simply going there, I connected with some of the most interesting people in the city. So by working at the Everyman at that moment in time, I met some amazing, inspiring people. And the world, for the very first time, suddenly felt limitless. A few years later, I left the Everyman and I started doing something on my own, a project on my own, which in a way I'd kind of always wanted to do. But after a number of false starts, sideways moves, backward steps, I started off an organisation that eventually became FACT. It took many years of trial and error to figure out how to make it work well, and even to pay myself a reasonable salary. But I'd created the things I'd been after but hadn't been able to kind of name when I was young. Those things were autonomy, creative freedom, and an acquired self-belief from knowing that lots of people were beginning to value what I did. There's an old saying which goes something like, it takes 20 years to become an overnight sensation. And what that means is the moment where you get kind of recognised for doing something good, the assumption is that you've kind of come from nowhere, but there's not really a recognition of what's gone on beforehand to make that moment happen. So when I was able to develop the Fact Centre and open the building to great acclaim in Liverpool in 2003, that's what it felt like to me. Everything I'd done since I was an awkward, aimless teenager had been about realising that moment, and what's more, it gave me a chance to do things I would never have been able to do otherwise, like work at the BFI for 15 years, for 10 years, and work on other projects in London, and eventually, subsequently, make my life and work in New York. So, creating your own destiny. How will you do that? I'd love to hear your story one day.
How we doing, gang? Just gonna play a few songs for you, keep you entertained in the lockdown. Hope you're all doing alright. Not doing too bad myself, just need a little bit of a haircut. But anyway, my name is Peter J. Riley, and this is my debut single called Out on a Limb. It goes a little bit something like this. You're my weakness, my escape. You're the reason I face the day. I am falling, but that's okay when you're in front of me. I have never been this way. I've been learning from my mistakes. Watch me taking this leap of faith. Be more than I can be, much more than I can be. Ooh, come closer and you'll see the best of me. Ooh, when I hold you, I am deep in destiny. Oh, 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 give it up, let it out, don't keep it all in. Get out on a limb, out on a limb, out on a limb. I was lost until I found you, brought me further towards the truth. There was nothing else I could do, be more than I could be, much more than I can be. Ooh, come closer and you'll see the best of me. Ooh, when I hold you, I am deep in destiny. Oh, 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 give it up, let it out, don't keep it all in. Get out on a limb, out on a limb. Dare to live again. Be dangerous again. Give it up. up, let it out. Don't keep it all in. Give it up, let it out. Ooh, come closer and you'll see the best of me. Ooh, when I hold you, I am deep in destiny. Oh, 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 give it up, let it out. Don't keep it all in. Give it up, let it out. Don't keep it all in. Give it up, let it out. Don't keep it all in. Get out on a limb, out on a limb, out on a limb, out on a limb, out on a limb. Thank you very much. It's my debut single, Out on a Limb, and hope you enjoyed that. A little glass of water. A big glass. Say, hope everyone at the old courts is doing alright. I hope you're all doing alright, even if you don't work at the old courts. Gonna play a song for you now that I released with my band Shinola. It's called Alabama, and it goes like this. When I fall, I can only see the great heights that I'm yet to reach. If I fail, cold heavy fall, clinch the feeling, it's getting hard to go. I still see you, shot kicking out, I'm feeling now, native born down south, and all this time I'm singing, oh, Alabama. Never thought you'd get the best of me. Oh, Alabama. Never thought you'd get the best of me. Drops of rain reflect my sin on me, on my rock steady against my will. Watching you condemn my soul, destroy me now from inside the rabbit hole. And all this time I'm singing, oh, Alabama. Never thought you'd get the best of me. Oh, Alabama. Never thought you'd get the best of me. I've been asking myself about these days. I've been hoping for myself to make a change, but it just don't come my way. Alabama there, a little bit of a nutstrom. See if he's all noticed the mistake in there, but it's live, isn't it? That's why I made the mistake on purpose, to let you know that it's live. Never really. But by accident, it's because there's too many strings on this. I'm used to a bass, but it is what it is, isn't it? We're gonna, well, we're not me. I'm gonna play another song. This one was requested by the guys at the Old Court. It's Rich Man Sick. Now, I've done this one for a while, so see how it goes. Yeah, so I hope everyone's doing alright in lockdown. I hope you're all getting your daily exercise and keeping fit. And I hope you've enjoyed this little acoustic set. I'll play a little bit of a song called Hate the Colour. And it goes like this. How can I find my way? Feels like I'm coming down from this charade. you. The joker won't be crowned till the king's pursuit. And I didn't heed the call, and now I'm waiting around. Responsive echoes fall. I sit and wonder if I've been in here before. I seem to recognize my reflection through these walls. And as the sun goes down, I close my tired eyes before my sorrows drown. Dreaming before too long, passing those evil cries, as Ricky's cures were strong. I sit and wonder if I've been in here before. I seem to recognize my reflection through these walls. I sit and wonder if I've been in here before. I seem to recognize my reflection through these walls. How can I find my way? Feels like I'm coming down this charade. I didn't hear the call. Now I'm waiting around. Responsive echoes fall. I sit and wonder if I've been in here before. I seem to recognize my reflection through these walls. Nearly said thank you very much then. There's no one here, just me, isolating again. I'm gonna get out on the bike in a minute, I think. Just give you one more, eh? Finish on a little cover. Little cover of Stand By Me, I think. It's one for you all to sing along to if you're having a bevy in the house. It goes like this. By the way, thank you very much for watching the video. Like I say, I'm Peter J. Riley, and I hope you have had a nice 20-minute break from isolating watching this. See you all soon once this is over. When the night is gone, the land is dark, and the moon is the only light we see. No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stay by me. Darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand now. Just stand by me. If the sky that we look upon should tumble and fall, and the mountains would crumble to the sea, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear. Just as long as you stand by me. stand by me. Thank you very much, and like I say, see you all when this is over. Stay safe.
Hello everyone, welcome to my lockdown living room. My name's Chris Boyle, and for all you visual learners out there, I've put my name just at the bottom of the screen there so you know who I am. I'm going to try and entertain you for the next 5 minutes or so. This video is longer than 5 minutes, but I reckon after about 5 minutes your mind will start to wander a little bit, won't it? You'll start to think about doing the hoovering, all that bit of DIY that you've always wanted to do. Or you'll just start scrolling through Facebook, won't you? You'll start looking at memes of Matt Hancock, him being not the hero that we need, but the hero that we deserve during these troubled times. That's political joke done and out the way. Tick. The most stressful thing about doing a video is choosing what background to do it in front of, I find. You've got to choose a background that really reflects your character. Okay, so for example, should I have chosen to do it in front of a bookcase? To reflect my intellectual side. Look everyone, I read books. The thing that I'm saying is worth listening to. Or perhaps I could have done it in front of some of the artwork that I have in the flat. To show everyone that I have a fun, quirky side and that we're going to have, you know, loads of fun during this video. Or perhaps I should have done it in front of my open fridge. In a vain attempt to prove to my mum that I am actually eating properly. Okay, as you can see, I've decided to do this video in front of the blandest wall in my flat, okay, because nothing says Chris Boyle more than a massive expanse of nothingness. Now, once you've picked the perfect backdrop, you need to think of what you're going to do. Now, if I had any kind of modicum of musical talent at all, I could fill in my time just singing other people's songs, couldn't I? Minimum effort, maximum appreciation. Love me tender, love me sweet, never let me go. You have made my life complete, and I love you so. Love me tender. But as a comedian, I can't really do other people's jokes. It's frowned on. When I told everyone at school I wanted to be a comedian, everybody laughed. Well, they're not laughing now. So instead, as I go slowly insane under lockdown, what I'm going to present for you today is my top 10 tips for coping with lockdown. When it comes to living my life in general, I like to live by the old adage, never talk to strangers. I often find that no matter what the situation is, other people are always the problem. And other people tend to live by the saying, a stranger is just a friend that you haven't met yet. I like to think that a stranger is just a person that hasn't made you roll your eyes yet or mutter something offensive under your breath. The advice is, of course, to keep 2 meters away from everyone. If you're unsure what 2 meters is, because of course the EU came along and ruined everything with a much easier to understand metric system, 2 meters is, with lockdown her extended to its full potential, approximately 1 Chris Boyle. If you're thinking or tempted to make contact with any other person, I just want you to think Chris Boyle and then slowly back away. One place that you'll see social distancing working quite well is the queue outside of Tesco, which is slowly snaking its way through the car park. People dressed as down-on-the-luck doctors appear to be the people that are the best at social distancing. Nowhere else in the world will you see anything where people are basically looking at one another and just going, excuse me, I think you're 2 centimeters still too close to me. If you could just back up a little bit more. A little bit more? Thank you very much. It is different though when they get inside Tesco. I don't know if you've noticed this yourself, but all the social distancing completely goes out of the window. Okay? What I've discovered is that people don't know how to follow an arrow, right? They have no idea what an arrow means, and an old fella coughing into a mask will gladly spoon you if it means that he gets the last bunch of bananas. Oh, and apparently you're only allowed to buy 3 bottles of booze in Tesco. 3 bottles? That's not rationing, that's an intervention. Now look, this is very important, especially to all you men out there. No matter how shaggy or unkempt you think your hair is getting, under no circumstances should you be shaving your head. Do not do it, okay? You'll think that you'll look all manly and edgy, but actually you'll just look like a kid has drawn a face on an egg in felt tip pen, okay? You'll be aiming for like Yul Brynner in The Magnificent Seven, but you'll end up looking more like Tom Hanks in Philadelphia, okay? The only exception to the rule is that all those people out there who are naturally bald, okay, you've always looked ridiculous, so we're used to it. This one's really easy, okay? You've got all those books on that shelf that you keep standing in front of and taking your photo, okay? Take one of those off the shelf, open it, and read it, okay? And if you can't do that, if you can't possibly bring yourself to do it because you've been put off reading because of that incident that you had in primary school when Miss Blenkinsop asked you to read a little bit of The Very Hungry Caterpillar out loud in full school assembly, okay, then don't worry about it. There's a box in the corner of your room. Switch it on and watch it. I discovered this TV show that BBC One are showing at 12:15 every single day called Bargain Hunt. It's absolutely unbelievable. I'm sat there thinking, why have I never seen this TV programme before? And then I remembered, I've got a job. I've spent so much time sitting in front of the TV in my pyjamas that it feels like I live in Platt Bridge. If you've never seen Bargain Hunt, I'll sum it up for you really quickly. It's where 2 couples who know nothing about antiques are teamed up with 2 experts who also know nothing about antiques. And then they spend an hour buying tat in an antiques fair before they take it to auction and make a spectacular loss, where they all sit and have a bloody good laugh about how much money they've wasted whilst people are living and dying on the streets. And then they all link arms and kick and shout yes, like the worst ever burlesque show that you've ever seen. When you are asking yourself the question, how should I keep myself entertained? Remember that the answer to that question is never, ever a jigsaw. It will steal your life, it will steal your time, it will steal your soul. A jigsaw will make you the most angry you've ever been in your life. Bruce Banner was fine until he did a jigsaw. This could be the perfect time for you to finally take up running, you and the rest of the world. Since we've been told that we're allowed to do 1 hour of exercise every day, the most housebound couch potatoes are thrown over the front doors and come blinking into the daylight like a newborn foal, opening its eyes for the very first time and heaving their lard arses up and down the street. Dogs have never been walked so much. The other day I thought I'd seen a Great Dane cross with a Dachshund, and it turns out it was just a Great Dane that had been walked so many times that its legs had started to whittle down. It's very important only to do this if you've got children. Now is not the time to teach your husband, your wife, or your husband/wife, because this is 2020 and gender is fluid, anything new. Well, perhaps it is, but just make sure you close the curtains first. From what I've seen on social media, homeschooling appears to be that you spend 10 minutes every morning trying to bribe, bully, cajole your child into doing some maths, and then just giving up and letting them do whatever they want to do. I mean, after all, you've got loads of time. You can do the maths tomorrow, can't you? Luckily, there is a saviour though. Some guy called Joe Wicks has turned up and he's adopted all the children in the UK. If you don't know who Joe Wicks is, he's like a modern day Jesus. Some of his miracles include turning dads to wine and turning mum's knees to jelly. Anyway, every morning, 9 AM I think it is, he'll keep your kids occupied doing like some PE or something, right? You'll be able to eat your breakfast in peace while your kids dance about in the front room with all the coordination of a backing singer at a Girls Aloud concert. Whilst you're in lockdown, you should probably spend quite a lot of your time practicing clapping, okay? Because we're clapping for everything at the moment, aren't we? We're clapping for the NHS, which is a really, really great thing. All the politicians are encouraging us to clap for the NHS. But remember, Matt Hancock tells us this is not the time to give nurses a pay rise. And he's right, isn't he? He is right, because they've got no time to spend it. They're all doing 18-hour shifts down at the hospital, aren't they? Using bin bags for protection, like a kid dressed as a witch at a 1980s Halloween party, okay? They don't want money, they just want a clap. That's political joke number 2. Tick. So practice your clapping, but be prepared for some one-upmanship. For example, I used to work with someone who invented clapping. That's literally a joke for 7 people who may or may not be watching this video. Be prepared for some one-upmanship. If your neighbours see you clapping and clapping really well, then they're likely to just get the pots and pans out and start just banging those in appreciation. Percussion for the NHS, or setting fireworks off so that tired NHS workers can go home and find that their pets have made a mess all over the kitchen floor because they're absolutely frightened out of their wits. The ultimate way to show appreciation for the NHS, though, is to collect up all those toilet rolls that you've been stockpiling and spell out "We love the NHS" on the roof of your house. Seriously, what are you going to do with all those toilet rolls? One thing you can do, and one thing that people are doing, is the toilet roll challenge, isn't it? As many keepy uppies as you possibly can with one toilet roll. Some of you might have vulnerable relatives that you need to do the shopping for, okay? Now you have slightly different rules to everybody else. You still have the rules that we talked about, but you've got some extra ones, okay? So for example, when you are delivering shopping to your vulnerable relative, make sure that you're filming it at all times on your phone. Or how else will we know that your grandma's really ungrateful when you tell her that they didn't have any cabbage at Aldi? Or perhaps you've got one of those grandmas that'll open the front door and dance a little jig to that music hall favourite, "My Aunt Fanny's got a lodger called Ken, but she won't entertain him downstairs," whilst your granddad accompanies her on the accordion. It's always really touching as well if you can get a video or photo of you greeting one of your vulnerable relatives through the window or the patio door. If you can't imagine what I'm talking about, think Spock dying in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. It's very important to keep yourself busy, so you've got to take part in all the social media challenges that you get tagged in, okay? Especially the ones where you need to post a photo of something with no explanation. You've got to do all of those. And for example, I've got some of my favourites just written down here. If you like beaches or the seaside or other places that you can't actually go to at the moment, post a photo to remind yourself what you're missing with no explanation. Do you like pigs? Post a picture of your favourite type of pig with no explanation. And this last one, have you got a favourite body part? DM all your female friends with a photo of it with no explanation. What would we do without it? Make sure you have at least 17 cups a day. Lockdown isn't lockdown with at least 89 visits to the toilet. You've got nothing else to do, have you? And that's it. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for making it to the end. I've been Chris Boyle, just a reminder there at the bottom, just in case you'd forgotten. And those were my top 10 tips for coping with lockdown. Thank you very much.
To donate, visit www.theoldcourts.com/donate. All donations mean the world to us, no matter how small. Donations will be used to help us continue our work in arts and culture, and also to offer support to artists and community groups in this extremely difficult time.